Story 1. I work as a vendor for big box stores. It's an easy job. I make my own schedule, work my own hours, and most of it involves auditing and taking pictures of shelves. It's straightforward, pays the bills, and I don't dislike it. However, the number of "I don't work here" stories I have is ridiculous, because I'm wearing dark clothing and a lanyard, so people assume I work everywhere. I've got many such stories, but this particular one is one I know many of you will find amusing. This occurred before the pandemic. It was a beautiful, crisp day, and I was wearing a black t-shirt, gray leather jacket, jeans, had my purse with me, sunglasses on my head, and the only thing indicating I was even working was a purple Super Nintendo lanyard around my neck. I definitely didn't look like an employee. Regardless, a man with two little boys who appeared to be between 4 or 5 years old was glaring daggers at me. He wasn't saying anything, just glaring, as if somehow I would spontaneously gain the ability to read minds. It was extremely unsettling, but I wasn't about to approach a random stranger in the store. I went into an aisle to continue my work when his children literally ran up to me and grabbed me. One had his hands tightly wrapped around my leg, and the other had a hold of my purse. They were tugging at me and yelling, "Daddy wants to talk to you. Don't ignore Daddy." As I tried to pull them off me, I felt like a zebra about to be attacked by predators as the fathers started to storm down the aisle towards me. It definitely seemed like a trap. Just as I thought my day was ruined, an employee intervened and explained that I didn't work there, but she could help. I took this glorious opportunity as help from above and pried myself free, then rushed towards the entrance to take an impromptu lunch break. As I got up there, I was again captured. I turned around, and the same children had their hands on me. At this point, I was quite upset and firmly told them to go back to their father. All the while they continued babbling and shouting at the top of their lungs. Again, I pulled myself from their grasp, but they kept trying to cling to me. It got to the point where a manager actually came over and asked me what was happening. As I was relaying the entire story and trying to talk over the screeching children, I heard another very angry man shouting at the top of his lungs. The classic, "How dare you? Who do you think you are?" etc. The father was back. Wonderful. Was he upset at his two small children for running off after a complete stranger? No, of course not. He was angry at the random young lady they were accosting. Apparently, he was convinced that I was kidnapping his children, and he called the police. So now that my day really was ruined, I had to sit in customer service as the police reviewed the footage. The father wouldn't stop shouting. His children wouldn't stop screaming. Management was defending me, and I wanted to sink into the floor. Of course, it was serving as the best birth control of all time and giving me a massive headache as I was certain my ears were now bleeding. After everything was said and done, I was released, and the father was charged with wasting police resources and banned from the store because apparently he had done this before. Parenting at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Because while the father's behavior was absolutely abysmal, the fact that he condoned his children running up to perfect strangers, actually grabbing them, holding on to them, and screaming at them is beyond me. To this day, I can't decide whether they were trained to do that or if it was a complete lack of parenting. Story 2. I've been a long-time lurker and finally opened an account after reading some stories. Near where I work, there is a salvage yard that I would visit during lunchtime before the lockdown, about once a week. It is full of unusual things from around Ireland, ranging in age. It may include just some business clear-outs with modern items, but there are a lot of antiques too. As I have always been interested in old things, I have a fair knowledge of some unusual-looking items, and I may even recognize parts of something. The yard has many Georgian and Victorian components because it is in Dublin, and there are many such buildings. Anyway, I stroll down at lunchtime to have a look and never take off my work lanyard as I always have it on in the office. While browsing around the store, I go to the location where they put new stock, and there is a table with various different brass bits and pieces. While looking at the table, a woman comes over and starts examining them. She picks up a few bits and looks puzzled, so I casually tell her that the item in her hand is part of a Victorian meat grinder. She seems even more confused, so I hold it and show her how it would fit, then see a complete one and point to that so she understands. She is obviously American, but is grateful and then proceeds to point at different things on the table, and I know what they all are. part of a door handle, lock mechanism, tinder hooks, etc. Lady, you really are good at your job. Me, oh, I don't work here. Lady, you Irish are so funny. Me, no, I really don't work here. Lady, laughs, points to my lanyard, winks, so funny. Me, okay, glad I could help. The lady then walks away, sniggering. So I continue walking around, and as I go there so often and the place is a mess, I do occasionally push things out of the way to walk by or put things together that have been separated, as I can't help myself, knowing they could get lost in a group. The lady arrives over at me with her husband, holding a Guinness sign. It is a reproduction sign that is new. Husband, this says 40 euros. Can I get it for 30 euros? Me, I can't do that as I don't work here. He starts haggling. Me, okay, you can have it for 30 euros, but remember I don't work here, and I already told you. They both laugh. Me, just tell them at the counter Stu said it was okay for 30 euros. We all laugh, and I wish them an enjoyable time in Ireland, as they are sure to bring back stories of how funny the Irish are, and I left. A few days later, I went back to the yard and asked the guy at the counter if an American couple had asked for a discount on a Guinness sign. He started laughing. Was that you? So, as expected, they went to pay and mentioned me as a helpful guy who said they could get it cheap. The staff proceeded to say nobody called Stu works there, and as it was new stock, they don't discount it. The couple then explained that I had mentioned I didn't work there 4 times, but I was just joking. They all thought it was funny, so they let them have it cheap, and the couple laughed and said, so he does work here. They laughed and said, sure he does. When I have gone in since, they asked me what price they should sell something for. We are pretty sure the Americans think we were all in on it as some Irish sense of humor. Story 3. First, a little bit of backstory. This did not happen to me directly, but to my husband. I was also there but didn't speak to the person. It was also 3 years ago, so I am paraphrasing. We lived in a flat in a house that was once a farm and then a restaurant but was renovated and now has flats in it. One Saturday or Sunday morning, my husband and I were lying in bed when we suddenly heard a noise from our kitchen. A voice shouted, "Where is the restaurant?" We were confused. Normally, we lock our door in the evening, but we must have forgotten it the day before. I stayed in the bedroom while my husband got dressed and walked into the kitchen. There was a man who just repeatedly asked where the restaurant was. My husband explained that there had been no restaurant for 7 years. They argued a bit, but finally, he left. Again, it was anticlimactic, but funny when I think about it now. Story 4. I was going to a nearby Whataburger after performing poorly on an exam I had. When I went up to order, the manager was running the cash register. He greeted me, mentioning that I looked like one of his employees, or at least that is what I heard through my earbuds. I ordered the Swiss mushroom burger, and when he was ringing me up, I saw that he applied an employee discount to my order. It turns out he actually thought I was one of his employees, though to be fair, I was wearing a face mask, glasses, a cap, and am Korean. I reflexively stopped him by saying that I don't work here. He muttered about mistaking me for someone else and removed the discount from the order. Even though I didn't get the employee discount, which was 50% off the order, it did brighten my day after that awful exam I had. Story 5. I'm not sure why this story just hit me, but I realized this was perfect for this subreddit. I apologize if the details are vague. This happened to my aunt almost 28 years ago and not me. This is the grand story of my birth. Backstory. In spring of 1993, my mother did not plan things well, myself included. When I decided I wanted to be born, she drove herself to the hospital and found they were out of beds in the maternal ward, so she was admitted into a room with a bed as comfortable as a gurney in the emergency room. I bet the room was just as cold. In comes my aunt as practically my mother's midwife. My aunt has a tendency to take charge and wants to help. The nurses had her dressed in a cap, mask, gloves, and a disposable protective suit. My mother's labor was progressing quickly. So quickly, I don't think she could get an epidural or much else for pain. The resident doctor there gave the nurses orders to get this, get that, etc., to prepare for delivery. He then started to give my aunt orders, to which she gave him a look every time he did so. Meanwhile, my mom was starting to push. After about the third time the doctor gave my aunt an order, she got confused and asked him why he was giving her orders with authorization and terminology only nurses had and understood. He explained, also confused why she asked, that it was her job. The nurses nearby stopped, having overheard this back and forth, and one intervened. Why wasn't this nurse getting into cabinets and fetching medication? The real nurse told him, "Doctor, that's the aunt." I mean, in her defense, she looked the part. The doctor was a little embarrassed and apologetic, but they all had a good laugh. They didn't have any time to think more on it as I was seconds from being born. At 3:15 am, I arrived, and she actually did have to partially catch me because the incompetent doctor thought my mom had more time. My aunt was the first to hold me in the end, and I hope my mom got a much more comfortable bed after the ordeal. Story 6. This story takes place around February 2020. In my country, there were coronavirus guidelines for a week or so 1.5 m distance, limited people allowed per store, etc. I 22, female work in a store with a blue uniform. I was starting to have a headache, so I asked my boss if I could go to the store next door. They sell painkillers and vitamins. They wear red uniforms. After waiting in line, I got lucky and got the last box of paracetamol. I'm allergic to most other painkillers. The feeling of luck soon vanished when an unpleasant woman 40-ish female appeared. She took the box out of my hand. I was shocked. Me, "Excuse me." Woman, "Just keep restocking. I need more than that." Me, looking around to see if she was talking to me, "Ma'am, I don't work here. May I have those back, please?" Woman, looking confused and realizing I do not work here. "Well, I'm keeping these. Take ibuprofen or something." Me, "Ma'am, I am allergic to the other painkillers. Can I have the paracetamol back, please?" Woman, shouting, "You don't need them anyway. You are young. If I get coronavirus, I can die. I need them more." Me, at this point, my headache was horrible, and I felt sick. So I signaled an employee and explained what happened. The employee took the box of paracetamol, gave them to me, and asked the lady to leave the store for not following the social distance guidelines. Man, never had I encountered such an unpleasant person like that. Story 7. I wasn't sure where this story about an unpleasant woman belonged, but decided to post it here in honor of its hero, who most definitely doesn't work here anymore. So, for some context, this story involves me, a nice lady, an unpleasant woman, her husband, and a guy who used to work there. We'll call him Adam, but he's actually my hero. Also, I'm obviously a transgender man, which did not help. I work at a large hardware store as an appliance associate. We wear orange aprons, so I'll let you figure out where that is. Now, I don't usually work in flooring, but the regular flooring guy was on break. So after the nice lady asked me to get something down from the overhead for her, I headed over there to help. Seeing the unpleasant woman and Adam standing at the carpet cutting machine, not together, I tell them I'll come help them as soon as I am done with the nice lady. After about 2 minutes, I return to the carpet cutting machine to find the unpleasant woman gone, leaving me to talk Adam through what would be best for him to get for his project. Just as I'm getting ready to roll out the carpet we decided on, the unpleasant woman comes stomping back. Unpleasant woman, "There you are." Adam, "It's all right, man. Take care of her first. I'm not in any rush." Me, "How can I help you, ma'am?" Unpleasant woman, "I need 60 feet of AstroTurf. How difficult is that?" I start rolling out her carpet. "You should have just done that to begin with. Are you unintelligent or something? All of you people are lazy, good-for-nothing individuals." Adam, "Ma'am, there's no reason to talk to him like that. He's just doing his job." Unpleasant woman, "Not fast enough. Not that it's any of your business. You need to stay out of our conversation." Adam, obviously done with her behavior, "Look, he's just trying to do his job, and you're acting rudely." A verbal exchange ensues until my manager, we'll call her Debbie, walks over to intervene. "Manager, Is there a problem? Unpleasant woman. I was just having a conversation with this lady pointing to me, and he started being rude. You need to handle it. Manager. Ma'am, he doesn't work here. I don't know what you want me to tell you. My manager proceeds to try and talk the woman down while I roll and cut her carpet. By the time I had her carpet ready, her husband had arrived with a cart to load it up. Then, thinking everything was over, my manager walks away, and I turn to Adam to get him his carpet. That's when I realized that the unpleasant woman had been telling her husband what happened. Husband, storming out to Adam, did you call my wife a rude name? Adam, shrugging, I said she was acting rudely. There's no reason to talk to associates the way she did. Husband, you need to learn some respect. You can't talk to customers like that. Adam, I am a customer, which means I can say the things everyone else is thinking but can't say. Then, the husband tried to fight Adam before my manager came back and escorted the couple to the front. Come to find out, Adam used to work there and loved the opportunity to tell customers everything he'd never been able to when he worked there. I've never been so satisfied. Story 8. So I'm a youth worker, and I care for young people aged between 13 and 18 years old who are in out-of-home care for various reasons, but most of the time, they have been removed from abusive parents. I have a specific client that I work with a lot who is verbally aggressive and has a lot of anxiety around school. This particular day was her third or fourth day at a new school, and she asked me if I could walk her to her classroom because she was feeling anxious. This is something I do a lot for our clients to also make sure they're actually going to class. It has never been an issue. I had even been to this particular school many times with another client. So I'm walking her to class, and she is walking really fast ahead of me with her head down when a teacher stops me. Now I am a 30-year-old woman, and I was wearing jeans, a black shirt with Biggie Smalls' face on it, and a pair of Vans, so I can understand that my outfit skews younger. But I find if I dress cool, I have better success building relationships with the clients as they see me as more of an older sister rather than dressing in my normal clothes and coming across as maternal. So the teacher says in an incredibly loud, condescending voice, "Why aren't you in uniform?" I tried to quietly say, "I don't go to the school," so that the other students don't hear me because obviously, my client doesn't want it broadcast that she is in care and had a carer walking her to class. But the teacher isn't having any of it. She didn't listen to what I was saying at all. She starts lecturing me in the most horrible voice, literally wagging her finger and saying, "This school has standards, and you're making us look sloppy. I'm giving you an out-of-uniform slip, and you'll be getting detention too." I'm really annoyed by this point but also in shock because I'm 30. How can she be mistaking me for a school kid? I have a forehead wrinkle and the beginnings of crow's feet. How is this possible? I very firmly say, "There's no need to speak to me that way. I don't go to this school," and of course, she doesn't let it go. She gets louder and says, "If you don't go to this school, you need to leave. We don't allow other school children on our property." My client, who has been standing there getting more and more agitated, decides to set her straight and at the top of her lungs yells, "She doesn't go here, you silly person. She's my carer." The teacher turns bright red, and every student is looking at us now. The teacher mumbles something about visitors needing to sign in. I told her I had, and we kept walking. My client was so embarrassed, but her little outburst instantly made her popular with the other students because, as she told me later, that teacher is absolutely horrible to everyone. My client was spoken to by her teacher about appropriate language at the school but wasn't punished. So not exactly, "I don't work here, lady," but more of an "I don't go here, lady."